Good evening, everyone. Again, I'm with Forbes Trail Trout Unlimited, uh, doing some fly tutorials here, trying to get a nice little catalog built up for our students at Ligonier Valley Middle School with their outdoor club. Doesn't look like we're probably going to get to be able to get together with you guys, some one-on-one. But we can do these activities here, right here online, as you guys, I guess, are allowed to be together at the classes. We're just not allowed to be there with you. So this is the only way that I can think of that we can be there with you guys and teach you what you guys want to learn is and how to tie some of these simple flies here. We had a meeting last Wednesday. We discussed about getting everybody their vices, their Regal vices used to using. Hopefully we'll be able to get them to you guys to leave in the school so you can do your classes like we do, but you guys will be doing them with Ryan instead of just with us. Hopefully you guys can watch these videos as you go along and do step by step here. We're also going to try to get some packets together as like when we tied this fly right here, the caddis larva. We you the hook, the material, the threads, everything you'll need to tie this up here with your class, just the same way we do it when we're with you during when it's normal, I would say. But at least we can get you guys keep on moving. Don't let you guys get discouraged about all this. Yes, you still can go fly fishing. Yes, you still can tie these flies, and this is how we're going to get together with you. We're fighting this right there side by side with you guys, and we're with you guys all the way. So let's get started on two flies here this evening. This one here is the caddis larva. Tie it on a 16. When I first started out fly fishing, this was my go-to fly. Seemed like every stream that I go to, flip over a few rocks, anything, anywhere you go, flip over a log, you guys are going to find something similar to this. There's millions of ways to tie this fly. This will be just a quick version I came up that I think you guys should be able to use pretty quick. And then once you learn how to tie this, you guys can go ahead and make it your own. And I'm going to tie one with this color. I'm going to tie one with a little bit different green, and then I'll tie one with an ice dubbing, just to show you guys that this one fly, and not just this one fly, all the other flies, can always be tied with the materials that you have. Doesn't necessarily the materials that I'm using and I'm showing you what to use, that you have to use those same materials. You can use the materials that you have, and they will work just as well. So not everybody has the same or can find the same material, but I'll show you the material that I use, and you guys can use that as a basis on what you can start looking for. Like for instance, I will be using on this fly that I have here in the vise, I am using a hare, let me see if I can get this in here, the hare's ear, the Dublin olive. So the next one the next time I'll tie it, the second time I'll tie it, I will use it in, wow, is that bright? Hare's ear Dublin, the insect green. And then I can tie it in my ice dub chartreuse. Or we can always tie it with a dark olive. Guys, you can even tie this in a brownish color if you would like. It's just the materials that I have to use to tie this fly, so this is what I tie it with. So that was just a couple examples on what you can use. Let's get started here. I got some size 14. Let me see here if I can get this in here for you guys. It's a size 14. There we go. Barbless poopa hook. Always barbless, guys. You can see how it has, it's not a jig hook like we normally tie. This in here has that little curved shank to it. And that's what gives that appearance of that caddis larva right there. And then the bead that I'm using, it's not really a bead, and I don't really use a weighted bead on this hook. With this fly will sink just as good without it. You can always add some little bit of a lead, or you can add a bead to it. What I do have is there is a bead on the front of this, but I'm only using this bead here tonight. And this will go in my box too. I kind of like the way this looks. It made it a little bit easier to tie. I'm using a glass bead. Pardon me that it's all tore up here, but at least I can get you the size. I got these at Michael's. It's an 11/0 seed bead. It's just a standard glass bead in that 11/0 size, and that fit perfectly onto that size 14 hook. And what I'm using that bead for is not necessarily weight, or the color works perfect by using it in black. I also have it here in green as well, but I'm using it so I don't, with this hook being so small, sometimes I can take this down to a 16, this is a 14, and sometimes I'll even take it down to an 18 or a 20. But by using this glass bead and just starting out by doing this helps you not crowd that hook as much, that hook guy. So that way you have all this plenty of room that protects that, so you don't crowd that up, and then you can get your tippet through that smaller eye there. So let's get started here. Tying this one, I already have mine set up, and what I like to do is when I'm tying flies, I try to set up and do, like say if I'm doing this caddis larva here, and I want to say, okay, I like to get 6 of these done. I'll get 6 hooks set up, beads set up. No matter what fly I'm doing, I try to get all my materials laid out, so where when I tie one, I can put it away, hurry up and get tying on the other one, and I can get them 6 done pretty quick. So it's just something the way I like to do it, so it seems a little efficient for me. But you can see right there on that black bead, a glass bead, it's just small, no weight. Take it all the way up to the eye. And for this, I am using, I'm just going to stay with this thread here, guys, because I know that 8/0 seems a little bit, it's probably still a little bit thin for you guys. If you are used to using the 8/0 thread, you can. I'm using just a regular 6/0 black Orvis thread. The 6/0 seems to kind of be like, I can use the 6/0 for every fly. If I really wanted to get into detail and make this a thinner fly, or some flies actually do call for a little bit where this thread is a little bit too thick to make the fly correct, then I will use the 8/0. But I like to use a 6/0 just because of the strength and rigidity of the thread. Now when we tie this, you want to get this thread, you want to get it down to start to get into the pretty good to the bend of that hook. You don't want to go down too far, but you do want to get down, say if this was a barbed hook and you kind of figure out where that barb would be, and maybe go 3 or 4 wraps behind that barb, and it will get you down to say about this far of the curve of that hook. We're trying to get this to form that curve. So, and what I'm going to start using here, guys, is the very first one here, is I'm going to use the Dublin olive. And the way I like to do this, and with this olive dubbing, I cut the corner off of my pouch right there that it comes in. That way, when I'm sitting there tying, I can tie this up. I don't know if you guys ever seen the plastic boxes they give you with the dubbing in it, and it gives you the little hole inside the box. Well, all them boxes, they're hard to find for me around here, and it seems like there's a lot of colors that I can't use, so I like to buy the individual packs. And then I cut that corner off, and you can see how that dubbing just sticks out of that corner of that pouch. So what I do is I get my dubbing, and again, a little goes a long way, and at the very beginning of this, you want to try to get this dubbing real thin on the very end, because we are going to build a taper. You want this to go from the as thin as can be, and you probably will see some of this black thread bleeding through, but that's okay, because as we come up, we're going to get a little bit thicker on the dubbing, and we'll probably do 2 or 3 wraps around it to build that little bit of a taper up. We're not looking for a huge taper because we do have that curve of that hook, but we are looking for a slight taper. So as you can see here, I started real thin on my dubbing, and then as you can see, I kind of got it a little bit thicker. And if you can't get it a little bit thicker and everything's thin, I'm gonna just keep doing some extra wraps. That's all. It's gonna be like the same. It'll do the same way. So see how you start right here, real thin, and then we're going to work our way up to the bead of that hook, building a nice little taper. See how I went around that one twice, just to get that a little bit thicker. Now I'm going to go a little thicker here, and a little thicker here. Okay, now if you notice, I got real lucky on that one, and half the time, 3/4 of the time, it never works out that way for me. We have a space here between where I stopped that dubbing and the bead. There is a gap there. There we go. We can see it that way. We're going to use this black dubbing to finish the head of this fly right here. That's why I used a black bead, because if I didn't have that bead on there, more than likely on a hook this small, I will probably crowd that hook, and it makes it miserable to tie onto your tippet. So again, I got my dubbing, and then you can see I cut the corner of that bag off so that dubbing can stick out of there for me. So as I go ahead and get ready to dub, I can just pull a little bit out of the corner of that bag. It kind of helps me control a lot of it. That way I don't have it all over my desk, and I don't have to worry about getting stuff all mixed up in it or anything. So we don't need to go a whole lot here, because again, we're only going just that little 1/4 of the way, so we don't need a whole lot of the black dubbing. So what we're going to do is we're going to build this all the way up. We're going to try to get it, I like to get it to be, see, that's about the size of the bead, and you can also see that that green body is a little bit bigger than that head. So what I'm going to do is I want to get my dubbing up to the corner here. I want to build it up just a little bit stronger, get that head a little bit heavier. That's what's nice about using this dubbing, guys. It's when you do a little at a time, it's easier to control this, because if you have way too much on here, it's a lot harder to take off than it is to put on. So I'm going to get that head. If you can see, that head's a little bit bigger than that glass bead. And that's it. There you have it, guys. It's a basic fly. It's a fly that should be in everybody's box. We're going to do 2 4-turn whip finishes right behind that glass bead. And you'll appreciate that glass bead right there, just for the fact that you did not crowd that eye. Now, if you guys feel comfortable with tying this fly without that bead, go right ahead. And also, if you, like I said, if you wanted to put a black bead on there that's a weighted bead, like a brass bead, go right ahead and make it your own. Put a little bit of lead underneath that, some thin lead, get yourself some weight. You'll notice that once you get this thing wet, this fly wet, it will sink. It does not need the weight. It will get you down there pretty quick. But that is one version of the larva, caddis larva, and I always like to brush everything down. You can see how it makes it, gives it its legs on the bottom. You can trim it up a little bit here and there if need be. Some of these do get a little out of hand. But basically, it's just a simple fly that really works. It can be one of your confidence flies. I mean, this is going to be your go-to fly that when you go to a stream, especially around here, like around here where we live in southwestern Pennsylvania, and you've never been to that stream before and you just want to hurry up and get in there and get fishing, guys, tie this on right here. This fly here will probably be your best chances to get started, and you probably, more than likely, are going to catch some fish on it. So, and by fishing this, I like to fish this the Euro nymphing way, tight lining it, a lot of people call it. You can fish it underneath a dry dropper. You can get your dry flies, which we'll be getting into here. I'll have a couple people already scheduled up that they said that they would tie some dry flies for us. We'll get into that. That gets a little bit more advanced. That's a whole lot different ball game there. That's a different type of material, different hook. That's everything. It's just is completely. That's a whole different beast. Trying to keep you guys all into the so you can use that same pack of hooks that you have. The same beads that you have. Keeping you the same type of fishing pattern that you're used to. That's why I'm tying these like this. We're going to tie up another same thing, the caddis larva. There's my size 14 barbless. Always barbless. Especially when you're doing, and what you should be doing is catch and release. Practicing your catch and release. Most of the streams around here of the delayed harvest are catch and release. Size 14 glass bead. But this time, instead of using this Dublin olive here, I always say use the materials that you have. Use what you can. Make these your own. I'm going to end up tying it with, I'm going to tie this one here with that insect green color. Just to show you that you can use other materials other than what I'm showing you or in other colors, and they do turn out just as well. Whoa, got a little too fast right there. I'm going to go build myself a nice little thread base all the way down to the shank of that hook, but not all the way down to where that vertical starts to go, because your thread will start sliding down the hook. Then I got the corner of my bag cut off. You can see how that just feeds right up through there. Makes it a whole lot easier. Little bit at a time in the very beginning. Make it nice and thin at the very, very beginning. You don't want your first few wraps to be super thick, because then that taper is going to have to be really thick at the end of it to make it to form up a taper. So here, I'm going to tie this one here really thin all the way down, just to show you. Now that's the same, I use the same amount of material all the way down. I'm going to show you how you can tie these with just adding some more wraps to it. So you start off nice and thin. Oops, sorry guys, I didn't mean to bump the camera there. Do this nice and thin. And then this is where I want the taper to start. So if I keep going, the taper is really not going to be there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get ahead of myself for a wrap, come back and do an overlap of that wrap or two, and then see how that started that taper. Then I'm going to go up for a wrap or two, and then see how when I came back it started more of the taper. See how we're going? And then again, I got lucky twice in a row. I should go play the lottery tonight. I left a little space right there for my black dubbing, right there for the head. So right there at the end, get my black dubbing. You can see I use a totally different color, and everything still came out. It almost looks exactly the same. But again, if you don't have the materials that I'm showing you, it doesn't matter, everybody. Not every bug is the same exact color out there. The fish aren't going to say, oh, it's sometimes they'll say, oh, that's too much of a different color. But around here, you get it in the same family as a green color or a tan, darker color, olive color, you're going to be right there. It's not going to not catch fish for you. Get that a little taller than the bead and make sure that that taper builds all the way up. See how that's a nice taper all the way up from 1 wrap to 2 wraps to maybe 2.5 wraps or so up to the black. Now when I did the black, I probably had to do 4 or 5 wraps to get that taper pretty high. And you're going to do a 2 times of the 3 or 4 whip finish. Give that a nice little snug. And there you go. See, I used a different color material. Same fly, different color material. So you can see it's same fly. Just gives you, might even give you a different presentation. If you have the chance to go ahead and use a couple different colors, tie them in a couple different colors. Tie them in a bunch of different sizes. Build one box up with a few sizes of these different colors, a few sizes of the olive color here. You never know, because if you are going through the streams and you're looking at some of those bugs, as you can see right there, it's not that much of a difference. It's a nice fly. We're going to tie one more here. And then what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to go a little crazy on this one. I'm going to give this one some flash. And I do tie this one here a lot with this. Just because if it is like a super clear water, and I do want a little bit of sparkle to it, I will give this some ice dub, and I'm going to use a chartreuse. And then I'm going to use the ice dubbing and peacock black up there for the head. So what we're going to do here is I will use my black thread, 6/0, tie up behind the bead, all the way down to the curve, right before it starts to get a little vertical there, and the thread still holds up. And this stuff here is kind of, I don't know, it's a little bit, it is like ice dubbing, it's a little wiry. It holds on to the thread pretty well. And that little bit on this stuff really goes a long way. I don't want to tie up too much because then I get too close to the camera. So I just tied up a nice little noodle there. And then I go around. Then I'm going to build up. See, I'm single wraps right there. Now I'm going to do a double wrap right here. And then I'm going to do a double wrap right here. And then, see, I got a little bit thick on my dubbing, which is fine, because now I can get away maybe doing a single wrap there. I left that little bit of space right there right behind the bead, so I can get my dubbing on here. Now I'm going to use that black ice dubbing. Not much, probably enough to get me maybe 3 or 4 turns around, just to get me started, so it gives me a good guideline. And maybe I'll give it one more turn around here. So that's why I like to use a little bit at a time and not a whole lot. I like to be consistent with everything I do. There we are. The caddis larva, tying it the exact same way. 4-turn whip finish times 2. Now there's the exact same fly, caddis larva, tied with 3 different materials. You can see all 3, same shape, same size. Just because you don't have the material that I have doesn't mean you can't tie this fly. That proves to you right there that these flies can be tied. There's actually 4 different colors. I used something else there that I made. Probably made that in a coffee grinder. Then with the olive. And then with, which one was that? That was the insect green. And then with the ice dubbing. But there you have it, guys. It's same fly. Use it, abuse it. That fly there will get you moving on any stream. As soon as you get there, any stream that you ever fish around here that you're not too comfortable with, start with that fly right there, and more than likely that will get you going. What we're doing on the second fly here is we are going to be using a jig hook for this one here. It's called the Rainbow Warrior. It's a fly here that I actually use for steelhead. I used for trout actually this weekend here that we were successful with. It involves using a jig hook. This here I have this is a size 16 jig hook from Trout Legend. It's a J300. I'm using a tungsten slotted bead. Do believe that is silver and a 3/0. For the tail, we are using pheasant tail to do the tail fibers. You can use Coq de Leon if you'd like to. Normally that's what I like to do. That's a little bit more durable fiber than using the pheasant tail, but the pheasant tail is what this calls for. The body of the fly we are using, it's a Flashabou tinsel. I like to use it, this one here that is falling out of the pack. This one here that I'm using, I do believe this here is thin on this pack. I lost a pack for the material that I have here, but this in here, it's the wider. I like the wider tinsel, because what we're going to use the tinsel for is we use the tinsel here body, and then we also use it for you'll see that we use it up here on the top for the wing case as well. That's where that width of this material here comes in handy, and plus with the being wide on this body, it covers the body up a lot faster. So let's get started here, and we can get my size 16 hook, barbless jig hook. With this jig hook, when it rides in the water, it's going to ride upside down. Less chances of you hooking up onto a rock or something that helps bounce on the bottom a lot. And what I do notice is when it does hook into the fish, it hooks right into their snout or their nose right there, or the upper part of their mouth, and it really holds on, and it holds on very well. So, where did my tinsel go? I'll probably have to cut another one because I just yep, I just lost one, so let me cut another one. What I like to do is when I cut my tinsel, you'll see how it comes in, it's all zip tied together, comes in pretty long. And what I like to do is I grab one piece of the tinsel and I'll cut it up close to the zip tie here, because honestly, this one little piece of tinsel right here is probably like 8-10 inches long. It's going to get me probably 6 or 8 flies. This stuff goes a long way. we are going to be using, again, 6/0, and I'm going to be using the Unithread 6/0 in red. We use red for the body of this because when you're tying this body up on your, when you're coming down with your base layer here, it does show up right through that tinsel, and that tinsel is where you want it to be. Get that color red through. Build yourself up a nice little thread dam to keep that jig hook there. Go all the way right to the bend of the hook. Then for the tail, use the pheasant tail. What I like to do is I get like 5 or 6 of the fibers here free. And they're pretty sticky. So I get 5 or 6 of the fibers here. I get them vertical from the stem. So as I cut them vertical from the stem, that way all the tips are lined up there at the end. And then when I cut it, there, I have all the tips. I know it's kind of hard for you to look at, and I apologize. Let me see if I can. When you do that, all the tips are lined up there at the end if you do it with the, if you cut them vertical right there. And that helps you just line your tail up a lot nicer. So what you do is, you, just like any other tail that we've tied, we're going to tie the pheasant tail fibers on. Give it 2 or 3 little nice wraps, even sometimes 4 maybe. Now see how them fibers, that tail just a little bit long for me. I don't like my tails being that long because these tails are a little, you can get damaged real easy. They're a little fragile. So I like to bring that in just a little bit tighter, and that's why I don't go crazy on my wraps, because I can adjust my tail. So that's about as far as I would need my tail. And then I wrap this all the way back up. And then these, that's just how fragile they are. These break right off. So now what I want to do is I want to get my tinsel here, or my flashaboo here, and tie it right onto, right behind the bead. It gives me a little bit of a body. I tie it on like 3 or 4 nice little loose wraps to help capture that, because this stuff it's kind of hard to capture when it's that wide on such a small hook. But we're going to go all the way down to the thread all the way down to where I stop tying in for my tails. And then what you want to do is you want to get your thread and you want to wrap this all the way back up to the front of the hook, covering all of your flashaboo material here, because you want this here is the body that's going to show up through this tinsel. So you want everything nice and uniform, straight all the way across, and you want it nice and neat. And what you do is you get your flashaboo and you just pull it a little bit tight. You don't want to pull it off the hook or snap it, but you do want to put some tension between your fingers. You just want to wrap all the way up to right behind the bead. See how that thread is just bleeding right through there? That's what gives it that look that you want from this fly. That's why we use this flashaboo, because it is transparent. Now, here's the trick to this fly. When you bring this up, we're not going to trim this off. When I captured that, I don't know if you noticed, but I captured it right to the top of the hook. And then I put 3 or 4 wraps on there nice and tight, just so I can hold it, because now I'm back to the top of this hook. Now we're going to build the head of this fly. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring our material, we're going to bring this flashaboo back to the back of the fly, covering it back up. We're going back over the body a little bit. And probably, I don't know, you can see it, it's almost hanging to that thread is almost hanging to the barb of the hook right there. So that's about as far as you need it to go. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a little bit of this rainbow scud dub. This is the same stuff that we used on the flies, which what was it? That was the tungsten surveyor that we tied last weekend, I do believe. So we're going to use some of this light shade rainbow scud dub, and this is where that rainbow warrior comes in, and you can just see the colors that this thing gives you. So we're going to do the scud dub here up on your thread, nice and thin. This stuff isn't quite as easy to work with, but it is great stuff, and it will bleed. This red will show right through all this. Hopefully, yeah, I got enough there. All right, you want to cover up all your thread, going to the end of where you tied your thread in from your material here, and then we're going probably the same size as the bead of the hook. And that kind of helps you out. You can see the rainbow color there. So the thorax right there is probably almost the exact same size as the bead of the hook. So now what you want to do is with your flasher boot that you have out here or on the back, you want to bring it right over to the front and go right over the back and right over to the top of the bead there. Then capture it with 2 or 3 turns here. Give it a little snug, get it tight on there. Give it 2 more turns. Then I like to fold it back again, give it another 2 more turns, and then cut it. You don't have to worry about cutting it flush or anything, because it's just going to blend right in. As you can see, that's the end of the fly. Simple as it is. It's just as effective as that caddis larva. When you're going to a stream, everyone, and you want to, if I was just using 2 flies on some of these here, these would be the 2 flies that I use. That's why I tied these 2 flies up, and that is all there is to it. Keep it nice and neat so it looks good in the box. But the more this fly is used, the more this material gets loose, and it just flat out rocks. It's a great fly. All right, let's get some shade on that. There we go. But there you have it, the Rainbow Warrior. Tie it 2 more times here, and we'll go from there. I was talking to some of you guys. I don't know if you guys, I know that some of you guys don't watch it live, but you guys do keep up with it. When you're watching these videos, please hit like so we know that you're out there. We know who's watching. Just so we know that we are getting out there. I have a lot of people always asking me questions every day about the flies, which I'm so glad people are watching this. Nice little thread base. Go back to our pheasant tail fibers that we're going to do. Now, here, as you can see, like when you're looking at these fibers, if you cut them like this, you can see how the tails would just be tapered out. See how they just taper and taper and taper? If you pull these fibers, 4 or 5 fibers here out, and you go straight up with it, you'll see that these fibers, they'll all be even at the top. Cut them straight off. That way at least all my ends on my tails will be all the same size. Bring this thread down to the end. Three or four loose wraps. Not super loose, but enough where you can adjust this tail. You can just see how long that tail was, so I could adjust my tail to the length that I prefer. There is no set measurement or anything. Grab your fibers. I like to cover everything up on this fly so I can build a nice little red body underneath my tinsel. Hey, I found my tinsel, or my Flashabou. Take your time tying this on, because this stuff here will drive you crazy. What I like to do is when I'm tying this on at first, I like the material to go down start down the back side of it. So what I like to lay it flat all the way across the back. So what I like to do is I start it off on the side here, because when I bring down a few loose wraps, and when it grabs it, it'll grab it, it'll put it right down the back of that hook, just like that, covering this every bit of that material up all the way down to where you stopped your thread base. Take it all the way back up where you have your nice little red body there. Grab your tinsel or your Flashabou, nice and tight, but not tight enough where you're going to snap it. This stuff is resilient. It has some good properties to it, so it's not going to break on you that easy. But tie that all the way up to the back of the hook, or back of the bead. Capture it on top of the hook. Oh, see, messed up. So I just go back one. A little too much thread out there. There we go. Capture it. And then notice when I captured it up on the top of the hook. Give it a few wraps. Bring it down the back of the hook. Bring your thread down. And then, like again, I lay it down where you can see where it's almost to the barb of the hook. I judge that, and I try to keep that same distance on every one of my hooks so they're always consistent. We're going to use our rainbow scud dubbing. And the only thing we're going to cover up with this rainbow scud dubbing is that little bit of thread right there behind the bead that we just held down that marabou, or that Flashabou. Give it a few wraps around. You want it to be the same size. I like to guide the size of my body right there to the same size as the head of the bead. Grab your Flashabou, go up over top, make a nice little wing case there. Give it a few turns to capture, a few turns to finish. Cut it off right at the bead. 2 4-turn whip finishes to give yourself a red hot spot. And there it is, everyone. Your rainbow warrior. You can tie one. I'm just going to tie one more here just in real time. You can see how easy this fly is to tie. This will be the last one we do. Here, probably next week. I've talked to another gentleman from our club, and he is willing to be like one of our guest speakers. That way you don't have to sit there and listen to me all the time. It gets boring. But he is going to tie a couple flies for us. I don't know what he's going to tie at the moment, but he is going to stay with our same program here. He's going to start out with something little bit, don't want to quite say beginner, but little bit here on an easier part of tying these flies, and then he will tie the second one probably a little bit more advanced, maybe involving a couple little bit more materials or another extra step again. And then I was actually thinking of one evening, what I'm going to do is, I probably won't do it live, but I will do it I will post it up here. What I'm going to do is, I'm going to do in the bag segment here. I got a couple packs that we use for fly fishing. I'll show you what's in my pack and what I like to take out for a day of trout fishing. Show you the pack itself. Show you the net that I use. Everything is pretty much in that pack. I mean, I will empty that pack out right there in front of you, step by step. That way you can see what I carry on the water. I'll probably hopefully have somebody else with me as well. That way they will have their pack with them, and they can show you what they have in the water that they take out to the water every day. Not everybody fishes the same, so not everybody's going to take the same material, but or the same equipment. But I would like to show you what we do like to take out in the field when we are fishing. I think that'd be kind of fun. I can show you the fishing rods that we use, the lines that we use, the tippets that we use. Just try to get out of something different. I haven't seen that up online anywhere else. So maybe even a couple of guys, if we do on one of our next Trout Unlimited meetings, maybe I could have one of the guys bring their bags there and just show you right then and there. Just we'll do it right on the spot of what they have in their bags. They can show you step by step there too. I might have crowded that one a little bit. We should be in good shape. Alright guys, hope you guys enjoyed these two flies. I know you'll really enjoy catching fish on them. Going from a little bit of a simple tie to a little bit more of advanced tie, something that we've been doing. There you have it. Another Rainbow Warrior. Then again tonight we tied a fly, the caddis larva. We showed you there is one that I did without the glass bead. You can see that. Then I will show you the same fly here, but that does not have the glass bead. And no, I didn't crowd the hook on that, but it is a little hard for me to see. But that fly there, and then there's the fly right there with the glass bead. I don't know, I kind of like that with the glass bead a lot better. Just seems like it gives it some more body up there. That there's a different color, proving to you that you do not have to have the same exact materials that they show you online. Use what you have. Make the flies your own. learn how to work with the flies that you have, because that's the only way you're going to learn. And then that way there, if you tie this fly here, you're really starting to get used to it. You beat the crap out of this fly. This fly starts to unravel. You can take another step up and either use a silver or use a green wire in small and make a ribbing for the body to make it a little bit more durable. But as small as these flies are and as fast as I lose them, snagging trees behind me or snagging in rocks or something like that, I just try to make them quick, fill my box up pretty fast. But tonight, maybe we weren't even here an hour tonight. There's the amount of flies that we tied. It was just that easy to tie. So there you have it, guys. Hope you enjoy yourself on the water. Hope you guys get a chance to get up to Erie. If you guys don't get a chance to get to Erie, I hear that they are going to be stocking our streams here at the end of October. Hopefully we get some rain and we do get some water in those streams there, so not everybody's fishing in the same exact spot, trying to catch the same fish over and over again. It just doesn't seem fair for the fish. So we need rain, everybody. Let's go out, everybody, do some rain dancing. Have a good evening. Tight lines, everybody, and hope you enjoy. Have a good night.